world is awaiting. Y'all ready? Call this meeting in order. I'll stand and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies. Roll call, Brent Luther.
Present.
R.J. Donovan.
Here.
Tim Yoakum's here. Approval of minutes.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of the claims.
Motion to approve claims.
Second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of payroll.
I'll make a motion to approve payroll.
Second motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment. If anyone here wants to make public comment, you have 3 minutes to voice your concerns. At the end of the meeting, there will also be a time for public comment, so you're free to stay or make a comment later. So anybody got public comment at the beginning of this meeting? Okay, we're going to move on. New issues, new sheriff office, Mike Holkemp. Mike Holkemp is our sheriff.
We had 2 vehicles that were involved in crashes that were both totaled out in the last few months. The auditor's office has received the checks, and I was just here tonight to ask for that money back so we could purchase a new vehicle, and then also to get the green light to go ahead and order our 3 new vehicles for the year that we order every year.
Okay, as long as the budget is in.
Yeah, that's all budgeted, yeah.
Okay. Any discussion?
I don't have any. Mike, do you think you're going to be able to get a decently used vehicle with some of the funds? Or?
Yes, yeah, we've found some vehicles that are well in our budget.
Good.
Was it 100% recovery on the insurance or?
No,
80%?
it was, I don't know what percentage it was. The one vehicle was like 14 years old. We only got a little over 2,000 for it. It was totaled in a car deer accident. And then we had a newer vehicle where we received, I can tell you here,
How much do new vehicles cost us when you?
34,375.
Is that what a new one costs?
No, the cheapest new ones we're finding are like 40.
Okay. Now, is that, and usually you just take your equipment off the other one, stick on that one there, or do you have to buy new?
If we keep the vehicle in the pool for the reserves or spare vehicles, we'll keep the equipment on it and get new equipment. But what we budget, like what we have budgeted for vehicles every year, that money's included in the equipment.
When was that one supposed to be turned out that was 14 years old?
We were just using it for SRO, back and forth for SRO. It wasn't typically a patrol vehicle. But he was on his way to school one morning, hit a deer.
I was just wondering if we're a year off, we instead of buying another used one, just getting another new one.
That one we're not going to replace.
I got you.
Yeah, we're not going to replace that one.
Okay. Everybody?
I'm in agreement.
I'm in agreement.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next, we have historical marker George Sanquinetti. George Sanquinetti is our Vermilion County historian. I appreciate him taking up on that task, and he enjoys history, and I appreciate what he is trying to do here in the county.
Well, basically, I'm just here to kind of give us a little more background information, answer any questions or anything. We kind of discussed this a little before. Sean Floyd and I are supposed to meet with Casey Pfeiffer, who's the manager of the historical division, or the historical marker division of the Indiana Historical Bureau, and Jill Weiss, I think I pronounced her name. She's staff historian. Basically, we're going to try to go over primary history sources and secondary sources. Primary sources are really difficult to find. Basically, you get before the United States became a country, you get into the early 1700s, the 1600s and everything, it's really hard to find primary sources. So we're going to get together and try to go over that to try to come up with the high points that they want, and then to work up a narrative for the marker.
Now, you're referring to the one in Cayuga, right?
Yeah, actually, we got two. We got one for Cayuga, which is the native village. It was along the Vermilion River. Cayuga is actually, in Eugene, is situated on the site of an early Piankashaw village. Piankashaw was a branch of the Miami, which was the main tribe here in Indiana. Primarily on this side of the state, you had the Wea and the Piankashaw. Later on, Kickapoo from over in Illinois and the Potawatomi was in the area. From what we've seen in the history of Vermilion County, there was a massacre there during, I think that was 1790.
At this village here?
Yes, at the mouth of the Vermilion River. I think he was a captain at the time, Hamtramck, who was in conjunction with Josiah Harmer, that was in the Indian Wars, basically in the eastern Indiana, western Ohio. They went through and raided the villages, and they massacred the Kickapoo and Potawatomi village there. There is a story, too, that Francois Vissot, that was his name, his title, was a Sieur de Vincennes. He came from Ouiatenon. He was a commander at Fort Ouiatenon at the time. And they established Vincennes, and the story is that he got the Piankashaw from this village to go with him. Got some references on that. Whether it'll fly or not, I don't know. Cheryl Hargrave, who's here with me, she had researched and is working on applying for a marker for John Thomas Chun, who was a major, was a commander at Fort Harrison, and founder of Universal. So she's working on that. So actually we're working on two markers. The estimate that I turned in, I kind of explained a little bit of that. I had on for the marker in Cayuga, of course, the Indiana Historical Bureau, they want dedications for each of the markers that go up. And I put on there for travel expenses for Chief Craig Harper. He's chief of the Peoria in Oklahoma. A few of us got to meet with him in Vincennes about a little over 3 years ago at the French Colonial Day there at the old French House, which was the home of the younger Michel Briette. When the natives were moved west, basically in the 1830s, the Wea, Piankashaw, the Kaskaskia had merged with the Peoria. So I thought, well, if we could get him to come, since he would represent the Piankashaw, but I don't know whether that will go through. Jill, who is the staff historian at the Indiana Historical Bureau, she's got contacts. She's going to contact the Miami Nation, probably here in Indiana, to participate. So that expense for his travel may not happen. All of this is up in the air until we get this application filled out. The application is available in April. It's due in July, and it's like 6 pages, and they want everything right down to the last letter and T and everything. They get together in September after the applications are turned in, and from what I understand, they have like maybe over 500 applications they go through from the state of Indiana, so it's very competitive. We may get the markers, we may not. We won't know until September. So that's pretty much in a nutshell, that's the background of it, and I thought, well, if you have any questions, you could answer. I could try to answer what I could. Cheryl could answer it for the Chun marker.
Cheryl, would you like to come up and talk about your book that you've done for our county? I think it's notable that one of the other markers we did not too long ago was the Burlett's Trading Post marker, historical marker in Shepherdsville, and from that endeavor, George wrote a book on that, the trading post, and that book is now on file here in Vermilion County at the library. So same thing in what Cheryl's doing is these historical projects are not only a small thing, they are also retaining history for our future to know. And so therefore there's 2 books that's going to be available from the endeavors of these 2 here. So you want to explain that what you did.
Well, my book basically is all about Major Chun. He came up here in 1811. He joined the Army, and Vincennes came up here, Battle of Fort Harrison. He was in the Battle of Sackett Harbor. He was all over this part of the country. And he was breveted to Major as he was so brave. They said that, how was it, I told you earlier, that they would brevet him to Major from Captain to command Fort Harrison. That just meant a title. He never did get pay. When he retired from the Army, he had captain's pay. So I think, but it's all about, he was so instrumental in so many of the Indian peace treaties here, and was one of the last commandants of Fort Harrison, possibly the last. He shut it down, then he headed up to Fort Howard and Fort Wayne, where he started the peace treaties. And he's just a very amazing person. And there's nothing on him at Clinton Library at all.
Okay.
So hopefully when we get all this together and get it done, and we can donate these books to the libraries there, and also up here at Newport, and keep him alive. It's just,
He was also one of the founders of Universal.
he was one of the first. Salmon Lusk, the one that is now up at Turkey Run, he bought land on the west side of town, sold it, and moved up towards Park County. Major Chun, along with Eli Linderman, was his bugler at the fort. They bought land on the east side. He was the first founder of Universal. Chun's Ford was called for the crossing, not for the land he owned, but the actual crossing on Burles Creek that they
Or the old
crossed
covered
over.
bridge.
Yeah, the old covered bridge,
Covered
and the
bridge.
aluminum bridge is still called Chun's Ford Bridge by the older people, so.
Is there a name put on that bridge at all? It'd be nice to put a name on
There's
that
no
bridge.
plaque or anything,
You
no.
know what, that'd be a nice thing to do.
Yeah, it would
There we
be
go.
nice.
There's another thing. Have that bridge name, Chung
That's
Ford.
something we'd have to talk about.
It's a county bridge, right? I mean, it's all
Yeah.
county owned. I mean, why
And
not
it's
put the
still-
recognition
it
there?
is, that's the name of the bridge.
There's
But
something we
they-
could do.
Basically, there's history in this area that people
Yeah.
don't know about.
Yep.
And there's a few other members of our group that's been working on this. And this is just an effort to make people aware of the history that's around us. There's history all around us that people have no clue about.
Well, you guys are doing a good job, and that's what we
Appreciate
need.
it.
We like people
But it
involved
just,
with it.
like I say, the estimates there, that's what we're faced with. The marker price, that's pretty much fixed, and we'll have to, hopefully there won't be any increases on that. But some of the other expenses are incidental that we need to, as far as erecting the marker, the dedication, and so forth.
And George and I, with him being state historian now, we
Well,
were
county.
County, George, I'm putting it state, buddy. We were kicking around the idea of when we have the dedication at the cemetery for Major Chun, and we get his stone moved and set, if we could, he maybe could find some people in his
Yeah,
groups
people I know in Vincennes.
to do a 21 gun salute in period clothing.
Yeah.
We thought that would be really good for the family too.
Little update on the cemetery, and George and Cheryl and Brett's been very helpful, and we have all the wrought iron fencing purchased. Part of it's been sandblasted, we're ready to paint that. We've got concrete pillars to put up, we've got the rest of the fence to put up. We got a new driveway we're gonna put in. And then we gotta sod it and seed it and finish it out, so maybe by this summer that will be done, and we can plan on maybe a fall
Be good.
celebration on that, so. Okay.
George, have you considered, we had talked about a county marker as opposed to a state marker, similar to what Vincent or Knox County has done?
Well,
Have you looked into that any further, or
that.
decide not to?
The county, I don't think, at this point in time, we're not really set up to do anything like that. The thing is, the Vincennes Historical and Antiquarian Society, they've ordered a lot of markers. They order their own. And they have an account with CWA Studios. They're the ones that actually cast and make the markers. You really need to have some authority behind what you're saying on that marker. And that's why the Indiana Historical Bureau and historians that I know at Vincennes, they pretty much back that. At this point in time, we're not really set up to do that.
Sure.
But I think it's important to note that the state has talked favorable about the one in Cayuga, right?
Yes, the Jill Wish Simmons is her name. She's the staff historian there at the Historical Bureau in Indianapolis. She said we have a very interesting story. She said she has some good material on that, so I'm curious to see what primary source, history sources she has on that. And then we can kind of proceed with maybe working up a narrative and so forth. But yeah, she's very pleased with working with us on that, and really appreciate what she's doing.
What we're running up against for the Universal one, Casey told me that they usually take the applications now, they're leaning more towards minority groups, like that would be Cayuga.
Yeah.
And they have to have statewide importance, so I had to go back, and right now I'm starting and trying to show that Chun had statewide importance. But if they have enough markers to award to minority groups, there's a chance we won't get one for Major Chun.
Like I always said, there's always a possibility in our own.
Yeah. It's a gamble we take. Like I say, there's no guarantee that this will go through, but we're doing everything we can to hopefully that'll come about.
I don't think it's on the agenda here, but did we hear anything back on the DNR water
Nope,
access?
there's still, I called him and he told me that he's sending up the ladder and he'll let us know what they decide on the naming, and then they'll be in touch as they move forward on that project.
One of the names is the Cinnamon.
Wasanamon.
Yeah.
Wasanamon is the Miami name that they have for the Vermilion River. That's where Vermilion originated. The Miami called the river Wasanamon, and the village was associated with that name. And then when the French came here, they, in their language, it became Vermilion, or Vermilion Jaune, I think it means. Vermilion meaning red, Jaune meaning yellow. And it was basically because of the color of the soil around the river. And then the English, they called it the Yellow River because, here again, of the color of the soil. But Vermilion comes from Wasanamon.
Well, he did speak somewhat favorably of that name recommendation, so he didn't say that he didn't think it wouldn't be approved or anything. He said he'd just keep us in the loop as it progressed.
Very good. We will take that into consideration.
Okay.
I appreciate your work. Also want to say thank you, George. We had another state historical marker north on 63 here that we took down, and George helped in getting that repainted, and a student from North Vermilion did the painting on
Yeah.
it, and that was a nice project for our local community.
Yeah, the Indiana Historical Bureau has a program where organizations can get involved in restoring these markers. And then Cheryl and I happened to go to Eugene. We saw the marker there for the Eugene Covered Bridge, and it needs some work.
The one out here, you need to check on it too.
Yeah.
If we can find someone to donate their time, it needs
We
to be
get some organizations that will help with that. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
This information, a copy of it is here. If anybody wants to read about it, a lot of good information George brought and Cheryl, so it's available.
And George, congrats again on your new title for being the county
Thank you.
historian.
Well, I hesitated. I know Tim and Brett have been after me for a while, and I said, well, I don't have a degree in history. And then I sent a message to the Indiana Historical Society and said, you don't need a degree.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll do it.
I'm happy to have you there. I think the county's lucky to have you too.
Thanks.
There's a funny story behind that, because I always told George he's a historian, and he said, I'm not. And he'd always tell me, I'm not a historian. And lo and behold, now he's got to accept it. But it's nice to have people serve doing a job they love to do and have a passion for it. That's really neat. And he's been very helpful to me and the county in preserving our local history. So thank you again, George and Cheryl.
Thank you.
Hamilton Center Annual Report. Are they here?
They no show again? That's 2 meetings in a row now.
Next, we have groundwater withdrawal. RJ's kind of got some stuff on that, if you want to say what you want.
Yeah, sure. we spoke a little bit last meeting about, and I've received a lot of phone calls, and I know, I think the majority of us here, well, I know I do, and I know Britton spoke last meeting about opposing the project, LEAP project. And I think we're working on an ordinance, if that's correct, Britton, right? Working on some type of ordinance, but in the meantime, I'd like to see the county at least approve a resolution, you know, stating our facts and saying, hey, we're against this project. And we have a template here before us tonight, and granted, some things would probably need changed on it, but I'd like to see if you guys would like to approve that pending, you know, changing that, or if you'd like to review it and look at it next meeting and still work on the ordinance.
One concern I have is, my concern is cross watershed transfer of waters. And this resolution, I think, I didn't read it completely, but it's just for that LEAP project, isn't it? Or
Yeah, it's kind of like an overview, but I think, and I'm sure we could probably, you know, amend it or change it a little bit, but I want to make sure the community we represent know that we're, you know, opposed to this project, and maybe the ordinance we could get down to the...
I'm more of a broader nature than just a specific project, which covers that project, of course, so it envelops that. And I guess that's the only comment I have. I'd rather see a broader ordinance about the transfer of waters outside watersheds or units of watersheds. Anyway.
We can take it and read it and bring our comments and corrections next meeting.
I'd like to see if we can just leave it on the agenda that way, resolution, maybe / ordinance, and yeah, like you said, either make a really broad one or, you know, let people know that we're working on one of the two.
Did you get a copy of that resolution?
Not that I know of.
Did you get a copy to the email? Can you just forward it to him?
Thank you.
And you can look at it,
take a
give us
look
some
at
good
it.
feedback too from legal.
Will do.
So we're going to put it back on the agenda and deal with it next meeting. Okay, courthouse closing procedure. I don't think we've come to any type of a decision on it yet. I think we probably ought to do that in a meeting, have a meeting and talk about it.
I've come up with some parameters about not that
Yeah, I'm not
it's
there.
prepared or it's not a good it's not a document yet.
I wonder if we could check with some of the other counties and see what they do, you know what I mean, and bring that back, if we could check around and figure out what. So, we've got some other things to deal with anyway, if we could lump that into one of these meetings.
Yeah, I can check with Fountain and Warren County if you want, a couple of counties up north,
That'd be good.
see what they do.
Yeah. We'll keep that on the agenda too. Announcements. Brett, you want to talk about the one that's going on down at...
Sure. We had the Vermilion County Bicentennial. It's coming up February. Actually, the county birthday is February 1st this year. So we'll be 200 years old in 2 days. This Saturday, though, there's the reading boot camp there in Hillcrest in Clinton on February 3rd from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We'll be having a birthday party. And so they will have a dinner there also. The dinner, I think, is there's some fine or monies to be had for that, but I don't know if you have to send in a reservation or not for that. No.
I think so.
Okay.
It's $15 for the dinner if you want to eat.
Anyway, it helps them out, and it's a little donation to them as well. And but Hillcrest is there. It's the old immigration center at one time. It used to be what would you call it? Salvation. What was it before it became Hillcrest Reading Center? It was Hillcrest, but
It was an immigration place.
yeah, but it was more of a food bank and some other things that went along with it before. But anyway, I thank them for coming forward and putting on this birthday party, and I hope everybody can attend. So
There will be another celebration later when the weather breaks for County 2 here at the courthouse. But this one that they're putting on down in Hillcrest, we appreciate what they're doing. And
sure,
it's a good
they're
thing
really
to do.
enthusiastic. They got the kids doing things with it, and so it should be an interesting little birthday party for everybody to attend.
It's on
A
8th.
unique one anyway. Not
8th
everybody
Street.
gets to go to a 200th birthday party. So.
Yeah. Couple different things that I want to add to this conversation today. Ambulance facility. We've been working on that for probably 2 years, I think it is. My original intention was to, as I stated here many times, that it was based on getting funding from the Ready Grant. At first, we had a design done, and the design was too large for what we wanted. We went back to the engineers, and they revised those prints. I think it's back to the size, more like the size that we wanted and needed. The first design was probably way too big. So we got that revised. We are going to present that. We have Bill Reynolds here tonight. He is our appointment to the Ready Board, and we told him we want him to present that for funding. I don't know if it'll be funded. When I first brought this up, and I think we've all was saying that the only way we're going to do this is if we get the funding for it, and I think that's important. If it is funded, it'll probably be a 50-50 fund. Would you say that probably right, Bill? That's probably going to be 50-50. And if you have 50% of your costs funded, that's major. The council has already approved, if I'm saying it right, they already approved $600,000 toward this project. And what we're doing, we're trying to get 2 ambulance facilities built. This will give us a lot of flexibility. Britton, you want to talk about North Vermillion and what you worked out with them?
In the west corner of that property, the school corporation property, we have in principle agreed on a location, approximately a 1 acre parcel there above the septic field that would be, that the corporation is favorable toward letting us build a facility on that ground. So it has basically the septic utilities, water, and electric, I guess. Those are the 3 things it has there. So it has a lot of attributes. The school is enthused about having it there, and we got letters of support from North Vermillion School Corporation. We also have letters of support from the South Vermillion School Corporation for a separate facility on the south side as well. It probably won't be on corporate grounds there, but near that facility anyway. So.
And the other thing about the access on that road there, to get into town, there's a railroad. If you go through Keegan, there's a railroad there. And where this position is, there's a culvert right there that they can go under, where they have access to the other side of that railroad. So that's an important thing. The one south, Neil Costello's been working on that. It's not going to be on the same side of the hospital. It'll be on the same side as the school. It'll be on the east side. And he is in negotiation now with the town of Fairview of possibly securing a site there. And I think it's very important if 2 ambulance facilities are located right where our 2 main schools are. And, you know, in case something happened, that's a very strategic location, I think is very positive. So these things are working their way. If we do not receive the funding through the Ready, we will be pursuing something else. And we will fund it, and it's just going to take some time. It gives us a lot of, I think we all agree that it gives us all opportunity in the future anytime you go out and get bids from ambulance facilities. Right now, we don't own any of the facilities. Well, if we own the facilities, then it makes it easier for new companies to come in, or our existing company even to operate. And so I just think it's a great idea, and I think eventually we will get it done, get it funded. So
it's like Neil indicated in a recent letter that basically we paid for these facilities already at least once, if not twice, over the years with what has happened to the past ambulance facilities, if you will. So it's time to look at that a little more serious, or actually no, a little more seriously than we have been.
Okay. One other thing that we will talk about, the ARP fund money. That's the other thing we need, right, in the other meeting. That's another thing we need to address, right? ARP funding. Update on that. We talked to the council, and the council approved us to spend $50,000 of the ARP money. I wish we could have got more. They said they would see how we spend the 50, and they could give us more as we spend it. So we have to get together, we as a group commissioners, to come up with some type of guidelines to say this is the criteria that's required, and something there that you all agree, some type of a agreement.
We've already accepted applications.
Yep.
I think, is that process closed now? Mm-hmm. Okay. But we
I-
have applications to look at, I guess,
Yeah.
and decide whether those
So-
be funded or not.
I mean, it's not the end of it, but I think that, I agree with him. I think that money ought to be spent properly, and I think we can find some good sources to do it. One other thing I want to add, I think that I've said it several times, and I think the commissioners and everyone here is in agreement with it. The problem we have with our county about doing projects is, it seems like what happens is funding comes along and we don't have the project ready. And it's just there's not enough time. And what I'm wanting to do, and I've been wanting to do it for years, and the other commissioners can tell me what they think of it. But I thought about a recycling center, and we needed it. I've talked about it for years, and I think some others have. And I would like to get some money from the council to have a not large, but a recycling center designed. And once you have it designed, it might cost you $15,000 or $20,000 to have it designed. You have that setting there. And you don't have to fund it now, you don't have to fund it right now, or might fund it for 2 or 3 years, but eventually when something comes up, the opportunity, and they say we've got X amount of money for X that's coming down, you have a project set and ready to go. And I think that we need more of those. I'm not saying just recycle, but if you work in the community and you have an idea that is beneficial, I think we need to have those projects shovel-ready sitting there. So I just thought I'd bring that up and see what you all thought about.
Garage 2, I've had it on the books for 3 years.
Well, and at our last solid waste meeting, we discussed that kind of heavily with Eric Scheidler, the new solid waste director, and I think, I've been on the board for 6 years, and it always comes back to just funding at the end of the day, and everyone always compares us to different counties, but no one wants to hear it, but at the end of the day, those are all funded by recycling taxes or solid waste taxes, and we just don't have the funding currently. But I mean, if we can generate that funding in some capacity, I mean, I've been a strong proponent of recycling, and even at our countywide cleanup days, we've set some of those containers up for recycling, and people do utilize them. So I would love to see it. It's just a matter of funding, and how do we keep that funding maintained?
You have those dates, by the way,
For
the cleanup days.
they're in that email. Eric sent them out. I'd have
I
to.
just thought we could announce it.
Yeah, I don't have
Wait
one.
in the next meeting. That's
So
all.
I would like to go to council and use a local engineer. I talked to Neil Costello, and he said Sanders and Associates Otero would be a good one to use. But like I said, I mean, I think we all agree that what happens is funding comes along, and then whatever you're not ready for it. And if we have these things sitting on a shelf, it might take 2 or 3, it might be 5 years, but someday they might come along and say, hey, we got a special grant come on the state, and it's 75% funding. And
I
if you're
think
not ready
that's
for
where
it.
this improvement funding can possibly go toward, is thinking, or if we have projects that we can already get on the shelf that are ready for, I guess ready 3 may not happen, but anyway, whatever the next funding mechanism may be, but that's something that I would strongly urge us to consider and use the monies that way, as opposed to some of the other ways that we're heading.
Economic development, you wanted to say anything tonight?
You pretty much already covered most of it. I think just to elaborate a little bit on the
You need to come
levy-
up here if you speak. Also, Bill, could you have something on the READY grant? Just say a few words in closing.
Because that was the one thing I wanted to just elaborate on just a little bit. You guys had touched on the READY. I know there's several groups within the county that are submitting an application for that, and I just can't stress enough that they need to make sure to talk to Bill and debrief him so that he has an idea of what all those projects are. So he can advocate those at the regional level of when it comes to that point. So he is our go-to person in that setting. So making sure that they have that information is extremely important. The only other things that I have is I will have the USDA snapshot to you,
Sure.
those loans at the end of the week. I was going
Fine.
way more in depth with that document I was thinking you wanted. So what you're actually wanting will be a lot
Okay.
simpler, and I'll have it to you sooner. I was able to do a full debrief with the RISE at their last meeting, bring them all up to speed of everything of what's going on with different projects that are out there. I was also able to meet with the IEDC Director for Business Retention and Expansion. So that's a whole nother segment of economic development at the state level, that he has a lot of resources of information that he is to be sending to me so that I can pass along for things that the state can offer existing businesses. So I'm anxious to get that information to be able to see what's available and pass on. You guys already talked about the bicentennial. I had that on my list as well to make sure to talk about. I also did take the liberty to print out the little flyer. So if anybody has any questions on what all's available on Saturday, I brought those with me. And then that was pretty much it, other than I know it's not at the point of you guys ready to be able to vote on based on kind of email communication, but I just wanted to kind of bring it back up to the top of your mind on the information with RJL and the community plan and things of that sort. So if maybe in the coming weeks or the next meeting, we can revisit that as to if there's any additional questions of that information that they
Is that
sent.
already funded, or is that funded through your office,
What's that?
RJL?
That is through my office. It is in the economic development budget for that.
Okay.
You'll need to look at the funding's changed, or the request for change has changed,
Yeah, they changed some
Yeah.
things.
4,800 to 6,000
Yep.
a month.
So, and I did check that in the budget before I came because I figured that would probably be a question. And there is, so in that allotted budget for those services was $75,000 for the year, and their total annual cost was $72,000. So I don't know when those hearings happened, if that was already like planned for or not, but it's in there. So I think this was already planned for when you guys were planning that
That's only for this
prior
year.
to
I mean,
me.
we don't have to do it next year. We can.
Right, so the community plan is a one-time,
Okay.
like they do that throughout this year, and then after that, the cost drops to $2,500.
And we can see how they do, evaluate their
Yeah.
services.
So, but you guys just have that in your inbox. I just wanted to bring it back to the top of to the forefront of, that does need to be looked over. And then if there's any other questions that we need to send back to them, we can do that in conversation.
Would you cover the ready grants that we know that are being applied for, or the ready projects? For the
Okay,
grants?
so the ones that I know about.
And the reason why I asked is that there needs to be letters of support for these projects, if this is of interest to you.
Mhm.
Like the ambulance bays, we've already received from the fire departments and from the schools and from others that have the interest. But these other projects, if you have an interest in them, these letters do go some ways to the RDA and their selection process. If there's no support, then it has less of a chance of being eligible for grant or funding anyway.
Correct,
You got one more
and that's
day,
a
right?
good
One
point
more day?
because, I'm sorry.
You got one more day? It's the third-
Yes,
first,
and that's
right?
kind of the urgency of, wanting to elaborate on that because the applications do have to go in on the 1st. And Bill can probably even speak more to this even than I can, but those letters of support are going to be a big factor. I mean, that's going to show that it's a community thing and the community supports that. So not only do we have the ambulance, I know Ernie Pyle Museum, the Friends of Ernie Pyle is putting in one for their museum, and then the Early Childhood Development Center
It's a
at
big
the
deal.
old Ernie Pyle School. So outside of that, those are the only ones I personally know about. So if there are others out there, I just can't stress enough of the importance of either getting a hold of me and I'll pass the information to Bill, or contacting Bill directly for them to have that information.
There is one other one. Thrive is accepting or requesting letters from the community for the housing funds that they're working toward, which will could directly impact Vermillion County, assuming they're successful. But the monies there are also slated for Vermillion County, so they're looking for letters of support as well.
Absolutely. All right.
Question while you're here, before you get away. Bill Reynolds, and I am the county's representative for Regional Development Authority Board. Nothing has come to me on any of these submissions. Do you have them?
No.
Oh! Uh-oh.
No. So I think they're still building them at this point, but
Okay.
it's more so of just making sure that you're in the loop of what they are and what's coming
Good.
down the pipe, because you're the advocate for that at that level.
Amanda and/or I, if you can keep us informed on this stuff, we're working together pretty closely on stuff, sharing information, and that's key, critical for
Absolutely.
communication. So I'll address a couple of things on the ready grants. The ambulance stations have been discussed, and that one's going to go in. It will be submitted, and you guys are handling that?
Yeah, it's through RGL and it'll be
Through
submitted
RJL,
October 1st.
okay. The Ernie Powell School conversion to an early childhood education, not daycare center, but early childhood education center is really our centerpiece for Vermillion County. Lots and lots and lots of support for that with RJL Solutions, and they work a lot with Indiana Economic Development Corporation, IEDC. So they're very excited about that thing going forward. And RJL is handling that as well. So they've got that and done a really good job with it. The Veterans Park, I think it's called, connected with the Ernie Powell Museum. I just heard a couple days ago that is going to be submitted, so I'm not sure who that's going for. Amanda, do you know who the Veterans Park is, who's channeling that? Is that RJL Solutions as well? There is an organization for that. It's not for profit that's putting that together, but I don't know.
You're talking about during the vacant lot?
Yeah, a Memorial Park, Veterans, what do they call it?
Well, the Ernie Pyle.
Victory Garden or Victory
Yeah.
Park, I think they call that. And a lot of that was discussed here a few meetings ago,
Yeah,
quite
very
a bit of
good.
detail
Very
on
good
that.
discussion.
So that's the third one that I'm aware of. Nothing else am I aware of that's going in. I'm gonna give
Ernie Powell School, did you talk about
I
that?
mentioned that, yeah. RJL Solutions has been very, very involved with the IEDC and with the Ready Board, and they're handling a lot of these pieces. And Amanda mentioned it, but one of the things I think we need, and it ties in with what Britton said a while ago as far as having projects ready, I think what we need is a countywide strategic plan on what vision we see for the county. What's the picture look like, and what those puzzle pieces are that go into that. And that's what we need to do, is to have the end in mind, and what are the projects can we do to support that overall vision, instead of trying to say, well, we'll do this project and we'll do that project, without looking at the overall what it's going to be when we get done with it. So, and I think RJL Solutions I think they're going to work on some planning for us if they have a contract in place, which I think right now is pending. So I'll give a pitch for that. So I think that would be a good thing. Okay, any questions?
I think you're spot on. Thank you.
Well,
Okay,
thank
with
you.
the child care thing is a big deal.
it's a huge need. It's an unmet need statewide. Yeah, it's big.
And what, we get $50,000 from Elanco for a study? Is that 50,000?
There's a couple of different grants. One of them was for a survey of what that need is, and I think I've heard like 300 plus people don't have what they would call good, reliable early childhood education for their preschool kids. And the other part of it, I think, was in connection with the architectural design. So there's a couple of different grants. One of them came through Lilly, and I think the other maybe through the Community Foundation. They may be commingled. I'm not sure about that. But
In the school corporation, there was 20 acres there, and they offered that to us for $420.
is it 20? I don't remember. We were up there last
20
week
acres.
and did a tour of it. So 20 acres. So yeah, there's a lot of land there. I'm not sure what, and we need to know what, where the septic field is for one thing, and figure out what development opportunities are available there.
But there's more than just child care there. There's a lot of other avenues can be done there.
There is the building actually is about 3 wings, and one of those wings, they have no plans for at the present time for utilization. And so there's other opportunities there, what those might be as far as workforce development, training classes. I'd mentioned something I heard about last week from somebody mentioned senior daycare.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a senior that you really can't leave alone, but they're not ready to be institutionalized. If you're there with them, or somebody can take care of them, gives you a chance to go shopping, maybe hold a job, or at least a part-time job. Somebody can just take care of them during the daytime. Not a residential facility, but just a daycare for seniors. Take care of grandpa while you go do a few things, and come back and know that he or she are going to be taken care of. So that's a possibility. Okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
An update on the county engineer. We've been working on this probably for 6 years, about getting a county engineer here for the county. Some interesting things happened over that course of time. At first there was no funding. The state came along and said, we will give you $40,000 a year toward funding of an engineer. So that's one part of it. Well, then when you talk about hard engineer, you're talking about probably about 2.5 times of that to hard engineer. I mean, you're talking probably $120,000 with benefits. The package would have to be. And so still you still got a big gap there if you want to fund it yourself. Well, what happened is Park County, who is in the same boat we are, they was looking at doing the same thing. And Jim Meese he's the county commissioner, and went and talked to the state. And the state approved that we, as two counties, if we want to come together and work together as a group, that the state would let us take both our $40,000 and put them together to fund one engineer. And then you're talking about, now you're starting to get where it makes economical sense. And so now we're looking at $80,000 to fund an engineer. And what the plan is, I got a meeting with the council of Park County at February 8, 9 a.m. If we all can put in at least $30,000 with this, each county, we could have an engineer for 50% of the time. And it's a really good setup. I mean, there's a lot of things to work out as far as who does what, but I think it's a great program. And I don't know if you know or not, but we have a one county highway system now. Mike Clack is over that department. And then if we decisions that are made is not going to be made based on someone's opinion. They're going to be made based on fact about road conditions and things like that. So I think it's a great opportunity. Other thing is, you know, we as Vermillion County, I mean, Park County's next to us, and we need to have better relationships with our counties. There's different things we can share. There's a lot more things we can do together. And I think this is an excellent program that hopefully will bring benefit to two counties, and it's part of a program with the state. And maybe Britton can explain a little bit more about what part you have in that and the benefits of having that position here.
The engineering position? Yeah. Oh, this will raise it to a professional level. Where we've been so far is it's been, I guess, layman's viewpoint of how highway systems should work and how they should be constructed, and the bridges and so forth. We have an asset management plan that we'll have the first draft roll out, I think, this next Thursday, in a couple of days here. With that, though, we'll be able to, a professional engineer will be able to take this asset management plan and start planning things out in a sequence of which we can afford and to be able to maintain for the long term our county highway system. So it raises it to a whole new level at that point. With Mike doing the superintendent as one county highway, we're sharing our resources throughout the whole county now as opposed to individual areas. With that, we have a number of consultants that we use. We don't get rid of consultants by any means. We'll still need those for the bridges and some of the major designs. But with that, though, we can start replacing some of them for what they're doing as far as our management of our system goes. And so the $30,000 or whatever other monies that we put in over and above what the state allocation might be will more than pay for itself, and that we can back off of our fees that we're paying out to the consultants as well. So we'll be able to absorb those monies back into the county. And it'll be very pointed, very well planned to our system, instead of it just being out there and being haphazardly, I guess, if you want to call it that, planned. So I'm looking forward to that happening. I'm looking forward to having an engineer on board, planning out our systems and being able to actually put our maintenance dollars to the actual locations that they need and find the priority that they need as well.
So we'll have more news on that here in next month. In closing, one more comment. Community Crossing Grant has been very, very good to us over the years. I was trying to get with someone tonight, and maybe Kylie could help me on the memory, maybe not. But I think we've probably got close to $8 million, $7 to $8 million so far of funding over the years of time from the state of Indiana for our roads. This has turned into a great program, 25% investment and 75% return. In the past, we was applying for $1.33 million a year, and the council approved us $333,000, which was a 25% match. The state this year came out with a new plan, which I was very happy with. They increased our they increased our maximum contribution to 1.5 million. And so now, with the approval of the council, they approved the additional funding to $500,000 a year. So now we have a total of $2 million coming into our, $1.5 million coming in from the state and $500,000 in from the county. And you can see the improvement in our roads in this county over the years. We've invested very, very well. And I think this is another part of making Vermillion County better. I think it's very important, and when you get a 25% investment and 75% return, those are the things we want. And I think our system is working. I think the highway department is working very good. Over the years, the last couple of years, there's been more ditching and berming done in this county than ever was done. And for good roads, you got to have ditching, you got to have berming. And from the north to the south, it's been done. And so I think we're doing very well. The highway department is, we got a great highway department, really do. And so just want to let you know that there is more increased funding. Just because you live on a gravel road don't mean you'll get it paved. A lot of people.
Well, actually, that's what the asset management plan will show us, is to what extent can we pave and still be able to maintain the roads that we have and the pavement that we have.
And people,
also, the NOVA projects are starting to, that'll be those 5-year projects for the bridges and so forth. So those are coming into play, will be coming into play. They haven't yet. But we're on schedule to be replacing bridges also. And so that's an ongoing program that we're still 3 years out before we see start seeing the benefits of that. But what that ends up doing is that we're only paying 25% of the bridges instead of the full price of the bridge going forward with those type of programs. And they should be available to us for a number of years yet.
We're getting closer on Bridge 122, aren't we? Funding and
that's just
actual.
next year, isn't it?
Yeah,
20.
we moved it up.
They moved it up?
Yeah, we moved it up. So
Bridge 122 is coming up for funding. Not for funding, it's already been funded.
It's funded.
It's probably approximately $900,000, $900,000.
This is one of the NOFA bridges. So.
Yeah. What happened is on 160, on the shortcut coming off 63 going to Hillsdale, that bridge there years ago was traded. The county got some paving done for taking over that bridge, which is the most expensive bridge in the county. And a couple years ago, they had a call for projects, and I went and applied for the funding for that and for the preservation of it. A lot of times you let these things go, and you let them go too long, they cost you more. But this time here, they did approve the project for like $900,000 or whatever to redo that bridge. So that's coming up here in the next 2 years. So that's a big project. So
I tried to give that bridge back to them, but they won't take it.
went to the meeting in Britain and said, "You ain't gonna get this funded, do you?"
I didn't think you would, but you did. That was the first, I think, NOFA project we've had.
Yeah.
Was that one.
Yeah. So, but we got our funding.
I still didn't want the bridge. I'm gonna give it back.
So whatever. Did anybody else got anything to say? It's been a good meeting. Anybody else going to comment and close?
We got 3 minutes and it's an hour.
Hey, we did pretty good. Been a good meeting. It really has been very informative. So.
Motion to adjourn.
Second the
We
motion.
got public comment. Yeah, I forgot that. You still got public comment. You may run over.
Public
3 minutes.
comment, 3 minutes. I mean, if anybody wants
One
to say
person,
something.
3 minutes.
Going.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second his motion.
If any of you have any, I want to say something. These chairs up here are open at the end of any meeting, and if you want to come talk to me, anybody in public or anything, always come ask me any question you want to, right here. And I think it's important that you guys have that right, and I'm willing to talk to you. Thank you very much.